teacher. I was inspired by my English teacher at high school, and she was very effective. Her teaching method was very communicative, and she was very proficient. Her English was fantastic. She was Italian, but she spoke. I'm talking about her in the past because unfortunately she passed away very young. But her English was good. She was devoted to her students, and she was devoted to having us learn fully. And so she was quite strict, but also fair. Strict but fair. So that was the model I wanted to follow. I tend to generate interest during each class. There's always a moment in which I try to generate interest in the topic. And so I might ask questions, there might be pictures. I'm also aided by the book. I use a book, a textbook, and the textbook is already set in order to generate interest in the students. And if I see that the interest is not there, I'll try and ask further questions. I tend to be interested in my students, and so that also helps a lot. I want to be part of the class, so I get closer to them and I ask more, maybe not personal questions, but I want to establish a rapport with them. Oh, wow. I think there have been quite a few. Definitely a memorable moment is when students come back to you and thank you. So when thank you because you have done a good job, because they've learned a lot, because you have inspired them to want to learn more or to become teachers themselves. So I can't really pinpoint one specific moment, but there have been various moments in my career, also moments when I felt like I hadn't made a difference. And so, but all of a sudden someone came to me and said, well, you didn't make a difference for me. So yeah, those are memorable moments. Oh wow, that's another interesting question. At the moment, my favorite author is Arailym. But if I had to pinpoint to mention one book, my favorite book of all time is The World According to God by Zhanerke. You might not have heard of him as an American author, contemporary author, and I like the way he depicts characters, and his characters are very complex. There is a lot of gender. It's about gender, mostly it's about gender, but it's also about age gaps and history. Yeah, I like his book is very layered, very layered. So yes. In general, it's always to be aware of different teaching approaches. Okay, so teaching methods. I mean, you can improvise. You can be instinctive in class, but not too much. I mean, always make sure that you know what you want from the class. So you set an aim, and you do all you can, all that you can do to reach your goal. So if you have an hour and a half class, you want an aim, and you must have a clear aim, and take all the various stages and steps in order to fulfill that aim. And be prepared. Always prepare yourselves. Always plan ahead. Never take for granted that your students might have the prior knowledge. Okay, so always be curious about your students' knowledge and try and understand how much they already know and how much you take for granted. So read your students' faces. Try and read their faces when you are in class and see whether they are following or not, and if they're not following, just approach them and be sensitive to their understanding of it. Sometimes you might not, and so you need to be sensitive. Yeah. Very much so. Yeah. Sometimes it's difficult because if you have many students, it's really hard. So the ideal group of students is 10 to 15. If you have a bigger group, but then obviously you have to devote time to, just divide them up. And but try and also pair your students up depending on their level. So never pair up students at the same level. Try and pair up students at different levels so that one understands and learns from the other. Okay? And sometimes the students don't like it because the more advanced students don't want to help the less advanced ones. But sometimes especially the ones that want to be teachers will actually appreciate that. But you need to navigate that, and every day is different. And in order to understand the class, you need to be there all the time. You need to focus all the time. Obviously you're there, but you need to read behaviors and read, communication patterns, and also encourage students to talk to you, to come, and talk to you. If there is a problem, they need to word it, and you obviously need to make sure that they understand. They have to be generous. As a teacher, you have to be generous. Don't teach because you like the sound of your own voice. Okay, some teachers do that. To be honest with you, at the beginning of my career, I was very self-obsessed. What do I sound like? And what do I look like? And, are they going to make fun of me and all that? And it was about me. No, it's not about you. It's about them. It's about your students. So your students need to be your focus, not yourself. First them, and then obviously you have to be professional, you have to be honest, you have to be strict, the right to strictness, and you also need to understand whether a student cannot make it. So if a student, there's so many suggestions here, but if a student cannot make it, in my first years of my career, there were students that I knew